Something was wrong in the kitchen, but no one said it out loud. The only sound was the slow ticking of the clock above the pantry. A kerosene lamp lit a small yellow circle on the table, while the rest of the room faded into shadow. My hands rested quietly in my lap. Daniel's coffee sat untouched. One answer had just been spoken, simple and calm, but it changed everything in a way no one could ignore. No one argued. No one raised their voice. No one left the room, but something shifted anyway. My name is Abigail. I'm 32 years old, and I live in Holmes County, Ohio. I have 3 children, 2 daughters, and a son. I never left, never ran away, never made a dramatic decision to start over somewhere else. I stayed, and staying teaches you things people who leave never have to learn. In my world, rules aren't written on paper. They live in silence, habits, and expectations passed down quietly. You don't always hear them explained, you feel them. You know when to speak and when to stay quiet. And when you step outside those expectations, the reaction is rarely loud. It's quiet instead. Doors don't open the same way. Conversations pause when you arrive. Invitations stop coming without anyone saying why. Nothing is announced, but everything is understood. Daniel wasn't a cruel man. He worked hard, loved our children, and could fix almost anything with his hands. But he believed strongly in what he thought was right. And once he decided something, he didn't question it again. For years, I didn't question it either. The first time I said no, it wasn't dramatic. It was an ordinary evening. I was tired, the baby had been sick, and the house felt like it was falling apart in small, invisible ways. Daniel wanted to host a visiting relative for several days. I simply said I couldn't manage it. He didn't argue. He just nodded. But after that, something changed. At church, women who once stood beside me began drifting away in conversations. Not openly avoiding me, just slowly, politely creating distance. Nothing obvious. Nothing that could be called out. Just silence shaped into behavior. At first, I told myself I imagined it. That I misunderstood. That maybe I had spoken wrong. It was easier to believe that than to accept what was really happening. Later, an older woman came to my home. She spoke kindly, carefully, as if she was offering concern rather than correction. She reminded me of harmony, of peace, of a wife's role in maintaining balance. I listened, staring at the table, unable to meet her eyes. When she left, the house felt different, smaller somehow. After that came the quilting gatherings I loved. At first, nothing changed. But slowly, responsibilities I once held were given to others. I was still there, still included, but no longer needed in the same way. And then I heard a sentence that stayed with me for years. A peaceful home begins when a woman stops needing the last word. No one looked at me when it was said. No one had to. It was meant for me. That was when I understood how things really worked, not through punishment, but through quiet adjustment. Not rejection, but reduction. Over time, I changed too. I became more careful. I spoke less. I began to second-guess even simple thoughts before I said them out loud, not because I was told to, because silence had taught me to. But life is not only made of pressure. It also contains small, unexpected openings. Years later, one evening after the children were asleep, Daniel and I sat outside on the porch. The air was cool, and he brought me a blanket without saying anything. It was such a small gesture that it almost disappeared, but it didn't, because it reminded me that people are never just one thing, not entirely kind, not entirely distant, just human, living inside habits they don't always question. That night, something shifted in me again. I realized I had spent years believing silence always meant agreement. That correction meant truth. That obedience meant understanding. But they weren't the same. Outwardly, nothing changed. I still lived in the same house, still raised my children, still shared my life with Daniel. But inside, something opened, a quiet space that no one else could enter. Not rebellion. Not escape. Just awareness. Now, years later, I sit in the same kind of quiet. The clock still ticks. The lamp still glows. Life still moves in its familiar rhythm, but I no longer confuse silence with consent. I no longer confuse correction with certainty, and I understand something I didn't understand back then. Most lives aren't shaped by loud moments. They're shaped by quiet ones no one ever names.